Am I the a-hole for telling cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card? I was in a higher-end department store today, rhymes with looming tales, and happened to end up next to two teenage-aged girls while shopping. One of the girls had picked out a pair of very expensive boots, and they were both fawning over them. Second girl must have looked at price tag and asked Boots girl if she's really gonna spend that much on boots. Girl with boots says something along the lines of, "It's fine. I have my dad's credit card, I'm not paying," which instantly caught my attention, because that's not her card. I've told my son multiple times he's never allowed to use my card, so I'm interested to see how this girl thinks she's going to get away with fraud, but had split up from the girls at this point because they had found something else. We end up at the same register, me behind, and I see her total hit well over 4 digits. The girl is about to swipe her card when I decide that I can't let her get away with something like this, and someone has to parent this kid, if no one else will. I tell cashier that isn't her card but her father's, and I'm not sure she has permission. Girl and friend turn and glare at me, giving me possibly the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I swear this girl was going to throw a tantrum right there. I don't think she was ever told no. Girl tells cashier her father gave her the card to shop with because it's the store's credit card, and it gives him the points. Now that I've pointed out it wasn't hers, cashier tells her she can't use that card. Girl tries to show ID to prove they have the same last name. Yeah, that will help, and I tell her it's still fraud. Girl says it's not fraud because she has permission and tells me to mind my own business. I tell her that it is my business that she's doing something illegal. She needs to pay with her own card or I call the cops. Girl is pissed now and people are glaring at me. She uses her own card and leaves crying. Cashier looks mad at me and I tell my husband when I get home, only for him to agree I was in the wrong.
Am I the a-hole? My Jewish roommate is telling me I'm not allowed to use the oven for my food in the apartment we both pay for. He then calls me unreasonable for being upset and feeling disrespected because of it. My Jewish roommate is telling me I'm not allowed to use the oven for my food in the apartment we both pay for. He then calls me unreasonable for being upset and feeling disrespected because of it. The apartment came with the oven. It's not his personal oven. AITA for feeling it's unfair that I can't use what I am also paying for. Edit for clarification, since a lot of people don't seem to understand that some Jewish people will only eat kosher and there are special rules to that. I'm not Jewish. I respect the religion, but it's causing issues. He's trying to tell me I'm only allowed to cook kosher food and store kosher food in the kitchen or fridge as well. He expects me to change my way of life for his religion, which I believe is disrespectful to me. Update. Thanks for all the advice, whether it's positive or telling me to get revenge by cooking bacon. I've decided to suggest we go to a rabbi and talk to him. I'm not trying to be anti-Semitic here, but I also don't want his beliefs forced on me. For further clarification. I was like to believe that the change would be small and easy. I can respect using different plates for different things. Nobody told me I wouldn't be allowed to use the oven or the refrigerator. And for those of you telling me I didn't do my research, I shouldn't have to become a theologian to rent a room. Instead. The roommate should be honest and upfront and not misrepresent something that alters your whole way of life as a minor change. We had a huge fight about it yesterday. I stood up for myself and told him he doesn't get to use his religion to control me. I don't appreciate the anti-Semitic comments from some of you guys. We are having a disagreement, but that doesn't make those of Jewish faith bad people, or even my roommate. A bit of a jerk. Sure, but not a bad person.
Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my fiance? Last night my 35 male fiance, 38 female, left in the evening to give a friend's son a ride back to his home. She implied she'd be home before 9. She left at around 7:45. 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't home. I texted and she apologized to me, saying that her friend's son was actually in the next town over, maybe 30 minutes away, and she was coming home now. 11:45 rolled around and she still hadn't come home. So I called her to no answer, texted her to no response. I was getting very upset. 12:30 rolled around and still no response and no answer to my phone calls. I was extremely angry. 1:30 rolled around and my anger had completely transformed into worry. Not answering my calls and text not read. Around 1:45 I called the police. I have always heard that the first 24 hours of someone being missing is the most important, so I didn't want to delay. I asked them to let me know if there had been any traffic accidents involving her car, and the operator told me that they would put out the word and send some cops to check along the route she would travel. I called all the hospitals in the area to check if she has been checked in, and I waited outside watching the road for her car for 3 hours, partially because I didn't want the kids to hear me on the phone with hospitals, and secondly because I was sick with worry. At 7 a.m. she came home. She apologized for being out and said she had no excuse. She was driving home and felt tired, like she was falling asleep at the wheel. So she pulled over to the side of the road to sleep. When she did that, she found that her brand new phone had stopped working. She says she napped anyway because it was the responsible thing to do, and then came home at 7 a.m. to bring the kids to school and get to work on time. I immediately called the police and told them that she had come home safely, and gave them the case number and told them to stop searching, which they did. My fiance brought the kids to school and left for work. I set out to start cleaning. Cleaning distresses me sometimes, and I got a call from a policeman asking where she worked. I told him and asked why, and I was informed that it was their policy to check on the person's wellness after a missing person is found. I asked them to not go by her work, but to give her a call instead. He said he couldn't promise. My fiancée is relatively new to her job. A police officer showed up and asked to speak with her. She is now enraged at me for calling the police and sending a cop to her work and making her look bad. She is saying I overreacted and that she wasn't missing and that I was punishing her for doing the responsible thing and not driving while drowsy. She is saying that she is never going to leave the house again except for work because she is afraid I'm going to call the cops on her again. So, did I overreact? Should I have waited today like she suggests? Edit. Thanks for informing me, everyone. I am aware that my ex is posting deranged nonsense in the comments. I won't respond to them because I've made it a policy not to engage with her. Am I the a-hole for throwing my husband and my son out a few days before Christmas? Husband 41 and I 38, female, have 2 children. Our daughter Rachel 15 and our son Tim 13. Since forever I am begging my husband to do more around the house, but he continues to be a lazy man-child. He does the bare minimum when I force him, and that's it. And our son is learning from him. Not doing his chores, not cleaning up his messes and expecting his sister to cater him. Hubby is enabling him and secretly overrules me when I punished him. We had more than one argument because of their laziness. Yesterday I was shopping with Rachel and we met a friend from work and her boyfriend. So I called my husband and asked him and Tim to clean the house ASAP because I will bring guests. When we arrived home nearly 2 hours later, the house was a mess. I never felt so embarrassed in my life. My friend smiled and downplayed it as normal, but I was able to see the looks she exchanged with her BF. We chatted for 20 minutes after I cleaned the living room a bit, and then they left. I finally had enough. I told both hubby and Tim to get the F out of my house and don't come back until they learn to respect me and be helpful around the house. We had a bad argument, and in the end they gave up and left. My son has called me since from the motel where he and hubby are staying and begged me to let him back in. I told him he can ask me in 2020 for again, and I might consider it. They are banned for Christmas. Family will gather in my house this year, on New Year's Eve. Tim will then return. Hubby, I am not sure yet. My mom and my sister are against this. They think I am way too harsh, especially to Tim. But I think he needs a serious wake-up call, and this will be it. And I don't give an F about hubby at this point. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The text says clearly Tim will return home. This is just a wake-up call for him. Maybe he can even return for Christmas if he promises to do his chores conscientious from now on. Quick update, my son called me again. I explained the situation and what I expect from him. He agreed to sign a paper where all his chores will be listed. He also agreed to help his sister with all her chores until New Year's Eve. I will pick him up tomorrow. Didn't talk with my husband. Update 2. I picked my son up from the hotel in the early morning. He couldn't wait, lol. I apologized for throwing him out but explained my reasoning to him. He signed the paper and promised to do better from now on. I am happy to have him back. Hubby tried to talk to me when I picked him up, but I didn't listen. As for him, he can stay away for a while, and I will have the time to think about our relationship. Am I the a-hole for forcing my daughter to share a hotel room? I have 2 daughters, 14 female and 16 female. We decided to go to New Zealand for summer vacation. It's summer for us. We haven't been able to go on much vacations before, so all of us were really excited. We booked a nice hotel and planned to visit many places. We planned to book 1 room for me and my husband and booked another room for my daughters with connecting doors. I didn't see a problem, but my daughters want their own room and want privacy and think it's unfair that they have to share, but they are barely going to be spending any time in their rooms. They would only use it for changing and sleeping, so I told them to just deal with it. The room would have a double bed, so I didn't see an issue. My daughter wants us to get a triple suite with 3 rooms or just book another room. So both of them can have their own rooms, but it would cost quite a lot more money. We could afford it, but I don't think the extra privacy is worth it as they won't really use their rooms much. So I told them no. Now they are upset with me, and my husband and his mother are saying, we should maybe pay the extra money for another room. Should I just buy another room? Am I the a-hole for deciding to quietly change my will without telling my wife? My 30 for male, wife 30 to female, and I just had our first baby today. We were in the delivery room, all was going well, and I was holding her hand trying my best to be supportive. She was in pre-labor and was experiencing irregular contractions that she said weren't painful yet. I told her how much I loved her and that she was doing great, but made sure not to talk too much either. All of a sudden, my wife tells me to please get out. I ask her what happened, and she says she just doesn't want me there right now. I stand there in surprise for several seconds, after which the midwife tells me to get out or she'll call security. I feel humiliated. Not only was I banned abruptly from watching my child's birth, but it was under the threat of force. Throughout our marriage, I've suspected that my wife wouldn't be with me if it wasn't for my job and family background. Her eyes don't light up when I come home from work. I start our long hugs, and she ends them early. Her eyes wander when I'm talking to her. I don't think she loves me nearly as much as I love her. I'm not accusing her of being a gold digger. She may love me on some level, but I don't know that she has ever been in love with me. If I die tomorrow, I don't know if it would take her very long to move on. I live in a state where the right to an elective share is 25% of separate property. We don't have a prenup, so this means that my wife has a right to at least 25% of my separate property if I die. Even if I were to disinherit her in my will, I've decided to will her 30% of my separate property was previously 100%, and 100% of our communal property if I die. The rest of my separate property, including income-producing assets and heirlooms, goes to my children and other family members.